Hello folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Dystopian War Elector Battlefleet from Warcradle. Okay, so the Elector Battlefleet Set from Warcradle for Dystopian Wars. Let's have a look at what we get in this. First of all, slipcover. On the back, it explains that for the Imperium you will receive an Elector class battleship, 2 Blucher class cruisers and 4 Arminius class frigates. And they are resin and or plastic. Oh, and or is good. There we have a rusted shell of a box. I quite like that because you can pack them away in it again afterwards. And we have a bag of resin and 2 sprues that are identical. So, presumably then, yeah. So we get 2 of the hulls for the Arminius, and then the rest of the components will be used in some fashion on the Blucher. A variety of guns, some massive guns, like the big Gustav or Carl Railway cannon, some turrets and turbines. What could even be a flight deck. Sculpt is very nice, well detailed. No instructions in the box, but as we discovered before, this is because the instructions are online, and I will have to sit down in front of the computer to build these, which is probably not going to be a major factor for most people. I'm not a fan of online. Because my workbench is in one place and my computer is in another, which means a lot of back and forth or trying to sit and do it over the keyboard. But you can't have everything. But that aside, let's take a look at the resin. So here's our Elector. Which is one monumentally huge hull. It's a very crisp clad. Sitting flush, which is always a good start. I can see a bit of flashing there, which means the mould was that way up. So we shouldn't see any seam lines coming across detail, which is nice. All of the turrets have cast nicely. No pockmarks or air holes. We even have the grating on the deck. A couple of torpedo tubes up front. We have our engine stacks here, which presumably go on there in some orientation, either forward or back. And having a look at the sprues, same level of detail, a little bit of flashing on this one, but mostly on the sprue gates, which is nice, and not on the actual components themselves. All those rivets. And finally we have our bridge. Which I imagine must sit up on these in some orientation. So, let's get these built and we'll take a look at how they come together and what the rules are like. Okay, so I'm back and all the fleet is built. And we're going to kick things off with the Arminius Frigates. So these little boats are single piece hull. Then you have the prow gun, batteries on the side, and then the bridge. So incredibly easy build. You really just have the 2 smokestacks that go on, and then the bridge sits straight onto those and on top of the port and starboard gun batteries. And then you have the prow gun that just is on that little disc. So very, very easy to build. You may want to leave the bridge off if you're planning on getting in to get that You can just see the railway track there that is a feature of the Imperium ships. But the Arminius is a cute little vessel. It has a elite crew, which means they can reroll their blanks during assaults, which is nice. And they also have a gunnery skill where if they all focus fire on the same target, then they get +2 to their gunnery. As you can see, the ship itself is about 45 millimeters long, maybe a little over. And then on the flank, it is about a centimetre, so 10 mil from waterline to top. Now, apart from the Arminius, you have 2 cruisers. So, similar in design. You have that lofted bridge. You also have 2 sets of tracks. Again, smokestacks on the rear. Not too difficult to build. This rear part was fiddly because there's little glue contact points between those 2 sections. So slightly aggravating. Also, the railway, you probably want to put that in first before you attempt to put the prow on, which means you're trying to build the sides and rear around it, or the front and sides around it. Either way, you've got a little bit of holding to do while it glues, but not particularly difficult. I've left this off simply to allow ease of access for one, and secondly, they're relatively stable when those are on because of the tracks, so they don't move around much, which means because this fleet is very modular, you could drop in various things so you can change the class of the ship without any major hassle. If you want to drop a train on for the, I think it's the Schamberg class. Schamberg. Anyway, you just pop those on, or if you want to have a Blucher or a Augustus, whatever it happens to be, you just grab the requisite part, pop it in, pop the bridge behind, and away you go. There's no need to mess around. They are, get that in. So about 100 mil tip to end, and height-wise, nothing goes beyond the bridge anyway. So your tallest point will be 25 mil, 26. Like I say, I do like the modularity of the fleet, which is covered in its rules as well. There are, let's bring these in, quite a lot of turrets. So you've got rocket turrets, you've got main gun batteries, you've shield generators and all sorts. And they go onto a, let's borrow this from the big ship. They go onto a deck set like this. So it's, again, railway line, roll on, roll off. And then depending on what loadout or ship you're building, they can go on. Now, this comes in 2 halves. So it should be possible to magnetize these without a lot of drilling and faffing around. So a small, maybe 1 mil or half mil magnet, probably half mil, into the center section. And then when you glue the 2 pieces together, you then have your turret ready to go. And it would just be a case of replacing that little nub with another magnet of equal size, and then you can clip in, clip out. Presto changeo, as the man says. So, apart from the turrets and the variety of rocket batteries, guns, and generators, you also have, like we've seen on the sprue, the little locomotive, which is used for things that have the logistics special rule that generally gives some benefit to your Victory and Valor cards or your scoring. And then we have the big fella. So, resin piece of kit. Build was very simple. Safe to say the build was practically non-existent, because you just go ahead and pop the resin parts on. So just the 2 smokestacks to the rear, 2 sections to hold the bridge up and the bridge itself. And again, not gluing it down to allow access for painting, but also then you have the options. So you can have the gun fore and aft if you're running this as the Elector. And if you're not running it as an Elector, you could probably glue these things down, but it has the option that these weapons can be swapped at the start of a game. So depending on the scenario you're playing, you may choose to reverse those if it's something where you're either trying to protect or get away. So you expect a lot of fire to come from the rear, then you can just swap the big guns there. Which is nice. The other thing is there is an order of battle for the Elector Battlefleet, which does require specific makeup. So you must have one of these, funnily enough, the Elector. You also must take your cruisers as the Blucher, and it has to be a full squadron, so 3. And then you can't have multiples of anything else apart from the Arminius Frigates. But if you do that, you get a command reroll as a bonus, and you also get the reconfiguration for free, so you're allowed to swap these around without having to pay the 15 points or so. So yeah, it's an interesting little adaptation. The ship itself is, see, let's get the ruler right way round so I can read it. About 141, 142 mil long, and where are we? 36 mil tall at the tallest point, and very crisply detailed. Cleanup wise, the Arminius had practically none. A bit more to do because of all the various sections for your cruisers, but it should make a very interesting fleet. And I do like the adaptation they have, where they have the modularity and the roll-on, roll-off stock, so they can swap the weapons that they are required to use, depending on the engagement they're aiming for. So there we have it. That is the Elector fleet for Dystopian Wars. So there we have it, a solid mainstay of the Imperium. If you're planning on getting into Dystopian Wars, this is probably one of the best ways to do it. It gives you good all-round beginnings of a fleet. But if you've got your own personal favourites, why not drop them below and let us know. Until next time, folks, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.